Hi, welcome to the Science of Self-Healing series on my YouTube channel. My name is Appelusa. I am a holistic bioenergetic practitioner and owner of Light Body Energetics. If you'd like to get on my email list for infrequent emails and free offerings, go to lightbodyenergetics.com. You can sign up for the email list there, or also on my Instagram at Light Body Energetics. You can go to the link tree there and there's a bunch of stuff you can look at and sign up. I'm discussing the science of self-healing, useful techniques to ignite the innate healing abilities that we all have. I've been on my own healing journey for the last 7 years, and I'm on a quest for knowledge, and I'm sharing that knowledge with you. By the end of this series, you'll be able to build your own morning routine or modify one you already have. Each video goes over scientific research behind or backing the technique, and then I demonstrate the technique or provide you resources that you can use. Even though you can watch these videos out of order, I do recommend putting together the morning routine in order because each technique builds on the last. I'll be going over what the technique is, why I'm highlighting it, and how to do it, and how it supports the body's innate healing mechanisms. All references and citations for this talk are found in the description below. Let's get started with this video. What are we learning today? Breathwork, pranayama. Movement of breath, breath training, breath work, pranayama all have deep roots in ancient traditions. Although there are accounts of breath work 3,000 years ago from ancient texts, there are artifacts from civilizations 5,000 years ago that indicate that breath work and yoga were being utilized. This is the Indus-Sarasvati civilization that existed about 5,000 years ago. This civilization was one of the largest at the time with over 5 million people. It was larger than Egypt or Mesopotamia, according to Sally Malem. She's contributing writer of the Human Journey website. In those times, knowledge and techniques were passed down verbally. In about 2,000 years BCE, a drought caused the civilization, most of them, to flee. In that time, the Aryans came in from Iran. They were the ones who wrote the knowledge in Sanskrit, and from that, the Vedas were born. The earliest text of verses, the Rig Veda, has correlations to the unfoldment of the human physiology and the universe, discovered by Dr. Tony Nader. The Vedas were some of the earliest accounts of breathwork and yoga. In Vedic traditions, breath is called prana, and breathing techniques are called pranayama. Pranayama aims to unify and balance opposites. The Hermetic traditions of Egypt used breath as alchemy to transform and transmute. They weren't far off on that, as we are exchanging gases when we breathe oxygen and carbon dioxide. More on that in a minute. But levels of each affect our physiology and our state of consciousness. Practitioners of Sufism and Jewish Kabbalists were influenced by the Hermetic teachings. In turn, the Romans and Greeks were influenced, and psychology embraced the knowledge that breath is a tool which alters the physiology and the mind. Taoists understand that breath is qi, or universal life force. It's what sustains life and manifests as life force in the body. And the meridians are circuits in the body which the qi flows. By following the breath or qi in the body with the mind's eye, one can unlock blockages in the channels of the body. Qigong is an example of a practice that moves qi through the body. Taoist breathing serves two purposes. Physically manifested as storing qi in the bones, in the skin, and blood, and decrease calcification in the joints, as well as be the path to enlightenment. Buddhist techniques vary, and there are many. Mindfulness is about observing the breath and not being attached to anything that comes up. Breathwork is a term that embodies many different ancient techniques, with current psychological understandings which combine the mind, the body, and consciousness. Some of these types of breathwork were practices to endure, such as high altitudes and low temperatures, such as tumo. Modern variations of those practices have been altered to accommodate Western temperatures and altitudes, such as the Wim Hof style. Ultimately, we humans found out a long time ago that breath is vital to our health and well-being. Let's think about that for a moment. We can go for a month or longer without food, a few days to a week without water, but without breath, we can only live for a matter of minutes. It's what energizes and purifies our systems. But deeper than that, we all eat different foods, we drink different water, but we are all connected by the same air that we breathe. Prana, chi, life force, electrons, oxygen, it's our fuel. And here we have the why. Breathing techniques have been found in studies to control stress, psychophysiological states, I had to look down for that word, for relaxation and for organ function. During the course of compiling this research for this video, I had to look up why we breathe oxygen. And according to Lena Bagdaci, research assistant professor at Binghamton University, answering the question of a third grader, why is breathing oxygen necessary? The main reason, this is what she said, the main reason we breathe oxygen and not something else is because oxygen is electronegative. This means that it is really good at attracting electrons, so energy can be produced. The way this works is we breathe oxygen, and oxygen is an electron attractor. It moves electrons down a chain that results in adenosine triphosphate production, or ATP, or energy that the mitochondria releases. Nestor also suggests that cancers can develop in areas of low oxygen. He recommends breathing slow and breathing less throughout the day, and always breathing through the nose, which balances the respiratory gases and brings the max amount of oxygen to the max amount of tissues. Thus, our cells have the max amount of electron reactivity. This should be the style of daily breathing, but a healthy dose of breathwork is like training for the breath and the physiology. So breathing is essentially the moving of electrons, the moving of energy. So Taoists weren't far off calling it Qi or life force, or prana from India. These practices were the result of wisdom, pranayama, qigong, and others. Yogic breathing, such as Sudarshan Kriya Yoga or Sky, is defined as a manipulation of breath movement and has been shown to positively affect the immune system, autonomic nervous system balance, and psychological or stress-related disorders, as found in a study by Zope and Zope, 2013. Sky has roots in traditional yoga and is said to link the mind with the universal force. It's been reported to be effective in treating stress, anxiety, PTSD, depression, stress-related medical illness, and substance abuse, and for rehabilitation of criminal offenders. According to authors of this paper, titled Sudarshan Kriya Yoga, Breathing for Health, 2013. New York Times best-selling author James Nestor of Breath, link in the description below, discusses the history of breath training, the importance of nasal breathing, and the avoidance of mouth breathing. And he goes over various breathwork styles. He discusses studies conducted on international sensation Wim Hof, who has broken 26 world records for controlling his autonomic nervous system with breath and cold meaning cold therapy. He was injected with E. coli, an endotoxin, and then practiced a variation of Tumo breathwork and then cold exposure. He had no ill effects. The study was then repeated by 26 healthy males at Radboud University, half of which learned the Tumo technique and half the no breathwork technique. They were injected with E. coli endotoxin, and then they also, the ones who learned Tumo also did the cold exposure, but guess which had a positive outcome with no ill effects? Those who practiced the breathwork and cold exposure. They could control their heart rate and body temperature. This stimulated the immune response, stimulated the sympathetic nervous system, and this released the stress hormones on demand, cortisol, adrenaline, and norepinephrine. Cortisol downgrades the inflammatory immune response. Norepinephrine redirected blood flow from the stomach, skin, and reproductive organs to the brain and the muscles and outer areas. And then there's a natural release of opioids, dopamine, and serotonin. Those with rogue immune systems, like type 1 diabetes, MS, rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's, are all signs of autonomic nervous system dysfunction. This style of breathwork can create a more adaptable immune system and the ability to control the autonomic nervous system. One more interesting style of breathwork is called Soma, which is kind of a mix of traditional breathwork practices and science. A pilot study found that Soma breathwork had similar effects as induced by psychedelics, due to its physiological effects as shown on EEG. And, of course, the subjective reports from questionnaires as well. There was a decrease across all EEG bands with an emphasis on a decrease in alpha in the posterior cingulate cortex. This is the hub of the default mode network, and I am a default mode network geek because any type of practice that limits the activity or decreases the activity of the default mode network, that is the area that is our sense of identity, how we speak to ourselves and how we talk to ourselves about ourselves. When this network is offline, we have the ability to recreate beliefs, reinterpret past traumas, and essentially new ways of thinking, because our brains become neuroplastic during trainings like this type of breath work and psychedelics and also hypnosis. Okay, moving on, I have 2 different types of breathwork practices to demonstrate for you. Nadi Shodana in Sanskrit is a practice of pranayama called alternate nostril breathing. Nadi is channel and Shodana is purification, and this practice calms the autonomic nervous system. The second is called Kapalbhati, or skull shining breath, and the practice stimulates and cleanses the physiology. A little bit about Nadi Shodana, or alternate nostril breathing. The right nostril is responsible for circulation, speeding up, temperature increases, cortisol, blood pressure, and heart rate increase. This activates the sympathetic nervous system and alertness and readiness. The left is responsible for the parasympathetic responses, rest and digest, lowers blood pressure, cools the body, reduces anxiety. We begin on the left side and end on the left side. Kapalbhati, or skull shining breath, is practiced by yogis. It's a fast-paced pranayama which focuses on the exhalation and effortless inhalation. Kapalbhati stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, when in turn it stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system at the end of the practice in the rest mode. And this is the perfect time to do meditation, allowing your nervous system to rest and enter the parasympathetic state. If you're healing from a chronic illness such as mold toxicity or mast cell activation, I highly recommend that you start with and stick to a pranayama that calms the nervous system, such as alternate nostril breathing. But if you're feeling like you're halfway or 60% through your healing process and you want to try something a little bit different, then Kapalbhati might be your next step. This is just based on my own personal recommendation. If you are working with a functional practitioner or a doctor that's specializing in environmental illness, they will usually suggest a type of nervous system retraining that has pranayama, usually alternate nostril breathing, built into the practice for 3 to 6 months. So that should take you about halfway or a little more into your healing process, depending on the complexity of your illness. So let's get to the how. Nadi Shodana. We will use your right hand, thumb, and ring finger to close the nostrils. Begin with your right thumb, close your right nostril, breathe in through your left nostril, close your left nostril with your ring finger, breathe out through the right nostril. Breathe in through the right nostril, close the right nostril with your thumb, breathe out through your left nostril. Breathe in through your left nostril. Close your left nostril with your ring finger. Breathe out through your right nostril. Breathe in through your right nostril. Close your right nostril with your thumb. Breathe out through your left nostril. Continue like this for 4 to 5 minutes. Then sit comfortably and relax. Kapalbhati, skull shining breath. Begin by sitting in Sukhasana. Place one hand on the low belly and begin forceful exhales through the nose. Your low belly will pull towards your spine. Allow air to naturally fill your lungs. Don't focus on trying to inhale. Once comfortable, you can begin at a faster pace. Go for 30 to 60 seconds and then relax. You can repeat up to 3 times. If you enjoyed this video and you like this channel, please consider subscribing. I do have lots of videos on using sound and tuning forks for health and well-being, and I hope you enjoy this series. Please stay tuned for the next video, and I hope you join me for the completing of a morning routine that supports your ability to self-heal. Hey, it's me again. I just wanted to let you know that I am doing breath work workshops, and if you want to get on my list and do them with me, then go to lightbodyenergetics.com. You can also go to Instagram at lightbodyenergetics and go to the link tree. You can sign up to my email list there and join me for some breathwork workshops.